Look, it's a real challenge, but you know, the Pareto principle applies here as it does in most forms of life. That the volume of activity or the volume of impact is going to occur in a relatively small number of sites or social networks or options. And yes, there are more options in China, but the reality is there are going to be certain social networks where you're going to get more bang for your buck, so to speak. So the 80-20 rule still applies. The key issue is just really understanding which network that you should align with, or which combination of networks you should align with to make sure that you have the maximum impact. The expression is everything old is new again, and I kind of made the point on the panel that there is nothing new about being social. It's something we inherently do. It's just we're given different tools to do it with than we have had in the past. And again, the same applies to developing a really effective integrated campaign. The reality is you need to understand who you're going to talk to, what is their desired response, how do they feel about the brand, and then build an idea that's going to ideally drive them to that desired outcome. Once you've kind of got that idea right, then it just becomes a question of which combination of media do you use most effectively. Some of which will be very specific, play a very explicit role in relation to reach or frequency or whatever. Others of which you allow people to seed that brand message and let it take life themselves. So there's a different desired outcome in terms of which element of the media mix that you use, each of which has a role to play. The problem is less about people over allocating budget to social media, as opposed to it being a situation where marketers need to realise where their customer base is, where they're spending time, and how to reach them in those forum or in those different channels. I think the issue for many marketers is they don't understand how to build an integrated campaign, are very concerned about trying something new and potentially not having the right outcome, and therefore they default back to the norm. As it was mentioned on the panel, with less than 5% of media spend going into digital channels, whereas realistically with 40% penetration, and as was mentioned on the panel, that I think it was Tier A was the expression used, that 18 to 35 year age group is probably around 100% internet penetrated, who are spending hours and hours of time online every day, as well as consuming other media. Digital needs to play a more explicit role. I do think there are local market nuances that you need to be completely aware of. China is no different to Korea or Japan or even India to that extent in terms of understanding where consumers are and how do you reach them in the most appropriate form. I think you use common sense. I use the expression, the consumer's not a moron, choose your wife. I think the same applies. The so what question. If we're going to do this, why would people bother responding to it? So things that you've learnt through your existing career or what you've been exposed to in terms of global best practice, I think you look at it and you say, could this work in China, or how would we make it work in China? Similarly and there are best practice examples in China that, there are opportunities to glean information from them. I think the more powerful insight for marketers is where you combine both and take that local market knowledge and actually really produce something that's unique and highly engaging and as a result far more impactful than it otherwise would be.